Otakuology Podcast with Otaku Mike Engine Graves.
Hey guys, how's it going? Mike here for the Otakuology Podcast. I'm with Jen, and
Beep, 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 beep.
Are you done? Are you done?
I guess I'm gonna have to be. You just put it all in my head. I was like, oh man, 3, 2, 1. Love it.
The manga world was rocked this last week, or this week, I guess you could say.
I don't even know if it was rocked. I feel like it was. Well, I feel there's two trains of thought. I feel like for most people it was completely shattered and just decimated, and people are walking around without spirits right now. And then the other half were like, fuck it, who cares about that shit?
Yeah, so I recorded something previously because Jim was having some technical difficulties on his end, and we got it figured out. For the most part, his computer crapped out completely. So I did record something which I will tack onto the end of this for our discussion, and it's just like my unfiltered thoughts on the situation at hand.
It might be a side blooper.
I don't think it's a blooper because I actually started to cry in the middle of it, but you know. But so if you haven't heard, if you're living under a rock or in outer space, Kentaro Miura died.
Yeah, or if you just like listening to the podcast.
Or if you listen to the podcast. Kentaro Miura passed away. If you don't know who he is the creator of the Berserk manga. What was he, 53?
Yeah.
He was 53 years old. And I'm trying to Google him at the moment, so I can remember the actual information. Sorry. He was 50. He was in his 50s. You know, he recently died, and he suffered heart complications. I don't exactly know what happened, but it was kind of like a heart attack, kind of. I wasn't really for sure what it was. But a lot of people are very distraught for a multitude of reasons. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. For sure.
You want to elaborate on that? Just saying, yeah?
I feel like a lot of people are probably distraught because a lot of people think that Berserk is like one of the end-all be-all, like God-sent mangas. And
so he was 54, so he was fairly young.
Right.
I'm in my mid-30s. You know. So,
right.
You know. It's crazy to think that Berserk was made in 1988.
Right.
It's over 30 years. I was born in 86, so do the math, you know.
Well, I mean, we don't even have to do the math for mine. I mean, mine was 91, so that was 3 years before me.
So, if you don't know what Berserk is, it's a long-running fantasy epic, dark fantasy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot to so many different people, you know. Regardless of how you feel about how the story came out or the story at whole, because a lot of people say that some of the best parts are like the golden, what's it called? The Golden Age arc? Is that what it is?
I think so.
I've never actually read Berserk, so
they just like the dynamic between
Guts and Griffith.
Yeah, Guts and Griffith.
So yeah, I've never actually read Berserk, so I'm going off of the original 97 anime.
Shooting from the hip.
I'm going off of the anime which I watched, the 97 anime. You know, so I'm not entrenched in this series as some people are, you know. So what thoughts were going in your head when you found about this news?
Oh man, I thought it was a joke because my brother like sent it to me, and it was before like I saw anything anywhere about it.
Like an hour later, everything just popped off.
Not even that. Like you and I talked about it like the next day, so I was sitting there like, is he pulling my leg?
Well, the thing is, no, like you go like an hour after we talked, because we were playing some video games. Like an hour, 30 minutes after we talked, after I got off, it blew up on Twitter.
Well,
Like all the companies were talking about it. News was coming out because his family, out of respect, wanted to have a funeral and stuff without that much fanfare, you know.
right.
And out of respect for him, in their grieving, they didn't want the world to know what exactly had this terrible news that had happened, and which is very understandable. You know, you have a grieving family who just lost somebody who meant the world to them, and he meant so much to everybody else who enjoyed his work. But yeah, I honestly thought it was a joke as well. And I texted a coworker of mine. I was like, hey, did you hear about this? I'm trying to find some news. I can't find any news about it. Because I do remember hearing a couple years ago, it was like a joke or something that he had passed away. So I think for a lot of people, they thought it was a joke. Until it finally came out, you know?
Right.
And it takes time for people to process this news, and you're getting all the videos and the tributes and stuff to this creator. I watched a few. I watched Uncanny Omar did a very nice piece, a very nice video, and Omnibus Collector did one as well. Very, very nice, you know. Tributes, I guess you could say,
Yep.
to him. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't too hooked into the Berserk fandom. I enjoyed the anime, like I said, so it didn't hit me as hard as, say, some of our friends who are in the manga community. You know,
Right.
when I reached out to Darth and I was like, Darth, did you hear about this? You know, and he was like, yeah, I did, and he was just shook up about it, you know, because that was one of the series that he loves. You know, Darth. You know,
I know Darth.
yeah, you know, Darth loves that series. It's one of his favorites. You know. And you know, like Dustin, you told what did Dustin say
About
didn't you reach out to him, or
yeah, he
reached out
messaged
to
me.
you?
He messaged me because of what I put out on Instagram about it.
What did you put out on Instagram about it?
I put out on Instagram that I guess we were all going to have to start selling them off before all the pricing of the Berserk manga basically like dropped down to $5.
I don't know if they will.
I don't know.
You know, I don't want to speculate, but when I was listening to Uncanny Omar, which is Near Mint Conditions, he works closely with Dark Horse.
Yeah.
And you know how Dark Horse has their I don't want to say printing issues, but they let things lapse, and you might get one print run of something, you know. They actually said that they're going to keep all the deluxe editions in print. So the deluxe editions of Berserk are going to be an evergreen title, and they will always be in print. And I think they're going to continue printing them in that as well. Like, it's not going to like to stop, because they want to share his work. Those deluxe editions sold very well. It's one of the top selling manga of all time, over 50 million copies.
Right.
So the Berserk manga had an impact on people and had an impact on society. And I feel like you can contradict me if you want or disagree with me, but I feel like Berserk, and I said this in my other recording, I feel like Berserk kind of transcended the fandom, where it wasn't just manga fans reading it, it was also comic book fans, or non-fans.
Oh, with it being Dark Horse?
Well, with being Dark Horse, but just being the subject matter, it was one of those manga, from what I've heard from people talk and speak about it, it covered a lot of themes that a lot of other manga wouldn't touch.
Yeah.
And the fact that it had that dark subject matter. And one thing a lot of people I saw talk about this was the character developments. Everybody seemed to feel like they were actual developed characters, unlike a lot of typical manga we get. A lot of the character development is usually focused on the main character, let's not lie.
Right.
Or or a lot of the characters are very cookie cutter thin characters,
Oh,
they're kind of one note characters.
I mean, that's true.
And that's one of the things that Berserk brought to the table, was they had all these deep layered characters, kind of like an onion.
Right.
Yeah,
no, I mean, I agree with you on that. I do feel like the characters had a good amount of development. My only problem with it was I felt like it took away from the story.
But you could say it was a part of the story.
That's true. But so I don't really feel like the story for Berserk was all that great. Just the character development was stupendous.
Well, I mean, that's very much a like your personal opinion. It's a lot of people really enjoyed it. I mean, I know people did have problems with the series being like the pacing and the timely manner with which it would come out.
One book a year.
Yeah. But I mean, who really knows? I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of what actually happened with the publication for that, because I do know it was a monthly series. We don't really know what his health was like, because a lot of those older mangaka or mangaka themselves, they can work themselves to the bone and have problems drawing and writing. And just like the creator of Gundam Thunderbolt, right in the middle of his manga, he had problems with his hands and he had a hard time drawing. So he had to change up his art style to help with his it was something in his hands, like the tendons in his hands or something. I can't remember what exactly.
Yeah.
And I think he's actually finishing the manga. Like, he's going to be wrapping up the manga soon, and there's always the Hunter x Hunter guy. Well, what's his name? What's his name? I don't remember what his name is.
Don't ask me that one. I just know that he's the Hunter x Hunter Yu
Hakusho guy. He always has health problems as well, and he's Mr. Hiatus, Mr. I don't know what you would call it.
There's a couple kings in that field.
And one of the things that people always go back to or have stated with this, and I've heard several rumors, so I don't know what exactly is true. They've said that Kentaro Miura was almost finished with the manga type of thing, like the final story was kind of wrapping up or whatever. Are we going to get the rest of the series?
We hope that it was wrapping up.
We hope it was wrapping up, but we don't know.
Exactly.
I heard from an account actually at my work, from a coworker. He was like, "Oh yeah, I heard that they actually have a bunch of the manga stockpiled, and they're going to be releasing it. So we don't have to worry about what if it gets finished or not, because they're gonna have all this other manga stockpiled,
Right.
like the manga company did, I guess. I don't know." And I was like,
well, that goes off of what me and Dustin talked about.
Yeah, like a
Because
contingency
he asked me
plan.
if I thought that they had a contingency plan for it, and I was like,
Yeah.
no, I don't think so, because almost every chapter in a way was kind of a standalone thingy. It might have been congruent with like what the chapter or whatever like arc they were in, but for the most part, like, nobody is going to be able to step up and basically say, hey, this is the exact idea, because you don't know if he was going to be, hey, we're going to have a whole nother arc in between before Guts meets back up with Griffiths and they have their final like fight and everything.
I mean, weren't they kind of gearing towards that, sort of?
They were gearing towards what's the girl's name with the C?
Casca?
Yeah, they're gearing towards Casca's kind of like mental rejuvenation of her finding herself back, which that's kind of the last thing that I know is in the manga.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard to say what could happen, or if he was finishing it. Honestly, I hope he wasn't stressing out about it. I hope he was with his family when he passed away. I hope he wasn't in a terrible spot, mentally, or
right,
because it had just came out of nowhere, and I just hope he wasn't stressing out about finishing the manga, because it was his life's work. He took pride in that.
The worst part would be, what if this was like his thing, and it was like he knew so many people reading it, and he was tired of doing it, like after the Golden Age arc or whatever, and this is like his big fuck you to all of us. How bad would that be?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. How
bad would that be though if we found that out?
I really don't think so, because of the fact, from all accounts I've heard, he took a lot of pride in his work.
Yeah.
He took a lot of pride in his work, and this was his opus, his magnum opus, He didn't work on that many other creator-owned titles. Once you look at his body of work,
right,
it was Berserk and maybe one or two other things that were maybe one-shots.
Right.
And I don't know if his assistants would come and pick it up, if he had like notes or the story already written out, but it's hard to say, and it's hard to say exactly how the fans would react to it. Because what if somebody did come and pick it up and finish it off? Would it really truly be Miura's vision?
It's true. I mean, only time will tell.
And will we like it, like, as fans? Like, will we feel satisfied with this ending? Because people have been waiting years for this manga to end. And I remember a couple weeks ago, I was joking with my friend at work, because he was talking. He was talking to me about Berserk, so I kind of knew what was going on. And I said this in my last podcast, and I feel so terrible about what I said, but I joked about the whole, what if he dies before he finishes thing? He was like, "Oh no, that's never gonna happen."
Are you admitting to something here?
I feel like I might have partially. I feel kind of partially responsible.
You willed it into
Like
existence
maybe
without
my
knowing.
bad vibes willed it to existence. I don't know.
Oh my god.
But I don't want to speak ill of the dead. He meant so much to so many different people. And it's sad to see him gone. I know there are a bunch of people that would probably be mad that in a wreck that it didn't get finished. But there are plenty of other manga out there that never got finished when their authors passed away, Maybe not to this extent, but
Right.
But I mean, we always have that. We always have the stories that we already got, so we can continue to enjoy his work and pass it on to the other generations, and like he lives on through his manga, It's not like all of this work that he's already done is going to be null and void and go away, You can still enjoy the manga regardless if it has an ending or not.
Right.
That's the way I look at it personally. I don't know. How do you feel about it? I feel like I kind of talked for quite a bit, so.
I mean, honestly, I agree with most of it. It is going to leave kind of a big hole because even though how some people viewed it of how it was kind of all over the place and whatnot, that there were still people that sat there and it touched them in a way where they had to say that this was one of their favorites and everything else. So I mean, for those people, it is going to be a kind of a big punch in the face or whatever, especially for that kind of stuff. So
yeah. Honestly, like hearing all these people talk about it and not really rave about it, but emotion, like talk about the manga so fondly, like listening to Uncanny Omar talk about it, and the way he felt and how his wife got into the series. His wife's not even like a manga or comic person,
right.
And she got into the series, and how much that series like meant to them and what they got out of it. And he like dissected and got so many different things out of that manga, not just violence, bam bam, cut people in half type of thing. That was kind of surface level stuff. It was more like let's dive deep into these characters and like what really makes them tick type of thing,
Right.
And I was like, it kind of made me want to go read it, kind of made me want to go experience what Berserk really truly is. Because I would always look at the art and be like, man, that's really good art. I like it, it looks beautiful. It has almost like a Western European anime look to it. It reminded me a lot of like Frank Frazetta. I don't know if you ever seen Frank Frazetta's art. But he did like a lot of the Conan the Barbarian like paintings and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you ever saw like those Conan paintings of covers and stuff, like they like the Death Knight and stuff, and it reminded me of that. That's what you could tell like all his different influences from like Miura's influences, like they weren't from like say like they were from everywhere. It just wasn't from like your typical manga type of thing,
Right.
You could tell he reached out and grabbed other things to pull in for like the art and stuff like that.
Right.
And I'm actually interested, and I think I said this before on the recording I did, but I think I might pick up the first deluxe edition and try to dive in and read it and see exactly what people thought about it.
Yeah.
And if I like it, if I continue to like it, I think I might pick up the rest. Just to see, even though if the story never gets finished, I hear it's one hell of a ride.
Right.
yeah, I mean,
I agree on that too.
I mean, do you have anything else to add to this? Stuff that I might not have covered.
No, I mean, I feel like you covered it pretty well on everything, and just other people that have actually kind of and done some of the other speeches and stuff. Because I've watched a couple of those that you sent to me too, and those were
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah, yeah. So
You
we're
know,
not gonna
I,
know what's gonna happen, with the story. For
especially because I felt that those were more better conveyed than a lot of other reviews and everything else, like I've seen from
uh-huh,
the little niche part of people that we know. So
yeah, it was kind of separated from our little manga tube worlds. They were kind of,
right,
I don't know, not in it, or I don't know, separated enough from it. I don't know.
right.
It's sad to see people
Well,
hurting.
the only other thing I would like to say is Kentaro Miura. See you later, Space Cowboy.
I mean, yeah, that's all we can really say.
Exactly.
Hope people are doing well after hearing this news. If you need somebody to talk to, we're always here. We'll talk to you about whatever you're going through. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have anything else to add to this conversation?
No, now I'm just
No.
gonna have to see if I can find somebody that'll make me a gut sword so I can pick it up.
I mean, I feel like I kind of reiterated a lot of what I said last night. I mean, I may have left some stuff out, but I don't know.
I believe in you. It's true. Well, at least you didn't cry this time. So
That's true. Well, I started to think about my own mortality.
yeah.
Because actually a friend of mine passed away on the 3rd, and which is very close to when Mira passed. And thinking, my friend, he had nobody around him when he passed away. He passed away, sitting in a computer chair, playing a airplane simulator type of game, and
Yeah.
and he also had a thing with his heart happen with him, so it was very similar to what happened with Mira. And I just think, he was only 33, so he was very young as well.
Right.
What he could have, what could have he accomplished within the world? What's his lasting legacy? What's Mira's lasting legacy? What's my impact on the world gonna be?
Yeah.
What happens after we pass on? Nobody knows, type of thing. I don't want to get into the whole religious aspect of this.
Stay tuned for next episode.
No. It just, thoughts everybody has,
Right.
and I don't know. It just kind of, it freaks me out to think that one day I'm not going to be on this world.
Right.
And what's going to happen after that, Like I'll be sitting there and I'll just pop into my head and I'll have like a panic attack,
Right.
Like, oh my God, like, I try not to think about that shit, but it's
well, I think
looming.
you got to think about it. And going off of this subject matter that we're talking about right now, you have to realize that you're kind of your own hero of your story, like Guts.
Yeah.
And that no matter what it comes at you, you're going to have to realize that, you have to play that role that you have of being the hero of your own story, and making sure that by the ending, it's just as good and memorable, as kind of this whole story. I mean,
Yeah.
because you got to think about it. we don't really live in a fantasy thing. There's not going to be a lot of people that make big accomplishments to actually have their names feel like they were remembered
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. But it just depends on the people that you've influenced. And you know, one thing that I find comforting, besides like everything else that I do, is just in this podcast in itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's most likely going to be around for years after you and I quit.
Well,
Even-
unless the servers die.
Well, I'll just hope that somebody's downloaded it somewhere. maybe like
We got,
what is it? The Time Machine movie, you know, where he
we got like a hard copy.
yeah. You know, like the Time Machine movie where he jumps to the future and
Yeah.
and they have the little like robotic screen and it can regurgitate all the history. It'll be like, "Oh, would you like to listen to the Talk About Legend podcast?"
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know, it really gets me thinking, you know. And I'm just in my own head type of thing.
Well, for everybody else out there that has thoughts and feelings like this, just remember, even you can try hard and be your own hero, just like Guts.
Yeah, I mean, Guts, for all the horrific things that he had to go through, every time he picked himself back up. And, you know, he continued forward. And, you know, he continued on his journey, which, you know.
Right? And he became such a beefcake.
And we'll
lift that massive sword. I want to lift a massive sword.
We will certainly do the same thing. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.
See you guys next Tuesday.
See you guys next Tuesday.